The iPhone 13 Pro Max is a really beautiful phone. It's one of the biggest screens ever made by Apple, and it was the first iPhone to feature a 120Hz display. The display on the 13 Pro Max is still a really good display, and even with the notch, it's not that bad. Like, the reduced notch from the 12 to the 13 is actually pretty decent, and the 14 Pro Max, has the dynamic island, which is cool. I really like what Apple's doing, but when you really think about using full screen content on the phones, the notch on the 13 Pro Max actually seems a little bit more practical in the sense of it's right against the edge of the phone, so there's nothing like hidden behind the notch or in between the notch and the bezel. But on the 14 Pro Max, if you look at different videos and examples, you can see that the dynamic island is like just in between some of the screen and some of the bezel. So there's a little bit of content that's kind of like behind the island, behind the, the pill shape on the screen. And I feel like that can be a little bit distracting, especially when you're playing games. But on the 13 Pro Max, like I said, it's right against the edge of the phone. So, it's kind of like there's nothing there. You don't really need to think about anything around that area of the phone. So it makes it a little bit more solid and like full. But again, that's probably preference. I do think the 14 Pro Max looks a lot better. Cooler, obviously, it has the dynamic island stuff, the animations and different multitasking features that are cool. But I do think the 13 Pro Max could be a little bit more practical when it comes to content consumption and different full screen tasks and things that you might do on your phone. So there is that. The cameras on the iPhone 13 Pro Max are still some of the best smartphone cameras out, and even when compared against the new 14 Pro Max, they're still pretty comparable. And honestly, in some shots, when you look at different videos and comparisons, the 13 Pro Max might even do better or might even be more preferable. It comes down to preference at the end of the day. And the improvements are, they seem big on the stat sheet, but they're pretty marginal when you see real-world tests and examples. The 13 Pro Max is still a really cool phone. It still features MagSafe, which is one of the best features of iPhones nowadays, in my opinion, allowing you to use many different accessories, many different stands, wallet cases. The 13 Pro Max is still one of the most powerful smartphones out. It still has the A15 Bionic chip, which was really powerful and is still, a beast. And it has the extra GPU cores that the base model 14s just got. And yeah, playing games on this phone is no joke. It breezes through anything. It's able to play Genshin Impact at near 60 for a lot longer than like 90% of phones on the market. And even when it throttles, it still plays Genshin at above 50 FPS. So that's a really good phone right there. And yeah, man, you're not really missing out on too much when you go for the iPhone 13 Pro Max and even the iPhone 13 Pro. But we'll talk about that one in another video. Battery life for this phone is phenomenal, and it can last you like honestly a good 2 days. Like in my experience, I'll play games, I'll use it for texting, for different things. It's like 5 hours of screen on time, and it will last me, even until when I'm done work the next day or around like 8 to 9 p.m. So the battery life on the 13 Pro Max is really amazing. It has the power, it has the durability of the battery, but in terms of build quality and, even durability, I think they're probably going to be around the same. I don't think the 13 Pro Max is going to break any faster than the 14 Pro Max will in terms of the glass cracking or the edges of the phone getting scratched and things like that. Even the user experience is basically the same. The one thing that I do like about the 14 Pros is the always on display. That is something that iPhones have been missing for years, and I think Apple's implementation of it is pretty good. Honestly, like, there's not really too much you're missing out from the 14s if you're getting the 13 Pro Max. And like, if you're gonna get the 14, I would suggest you don't get the 14, just don't get the base model, get the 14 Plus or the 14 Pros. And if you really want to save money but you want a pro phone, with the extra camera, 120Hz display, then get a 13 Pro because they're still really good. Just as good as the 14 Pros in my opinion. Just, the 14 Pros have slightly more features that you might not even necessarily use. When you think about iPhones, people who buy them don't really care about features and stuff like that. They just care about having a smooth experience, a good phone. They're not like Android users who want like all the features in the world. So realistically, a lot of people will be good with a 13 Pro or a 13 Pro Max. Honestly, even a 13. If you really want to save money, then get one of the cheaper phones. But I think the 13 Pro Max is a good place to stay at for like the next, honestly, like 3-4 years, and maybe even beyond, because of how well Apple supports older devices and just the way this phone is set up. Like, it has a 120Hz screen that's pretty future proof. I don't see the refresh rates of phones going that high in the future, or like as a standard. I mean, like phones will probably hit 200 hertz or whatever, but like for the standard users and the average phones, I don't think we'll see anything more than 120 hertz, to be honest. Maybe it'll go up to 140, but even that is a stretch. I think 120, 90 and 120 is probably a sweet spot where we'll stay at for like probably the next 10, 20 years, and maybe even beyond. Like higher than 120 is just not necessary, to be honest. 13 Pro Max is a really good phone. If you choose to get it right now, then I think you made a good decision. You can save money. And you might be wondering, how can you get it when Apple doesn't sell it? There's different ways, like Facebook Market, Kijiji, eBay, and if you can get it for a cheaper price, I think it's 100% worth it. But yeah, that's all for now. Thank you for watching this video. We out. Peace.